Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to begin the lecture by John Lear. My name is John Rhodes. Many of you know me here, but my function today is actually to facilitate the introduction of Mr. Lear, who's a very good friend of mine. Our associations go back a number of years. And as you well know his name, for 22 years he's been out here speaking about this subject matter with an authority as a commercial airline pilot with thousands of hours of flying time. So he's the perfect eyewitness and investigator into anything that has to do with flying phenomena. John is rated in over 100 aircraft. He has been flying with airlines commercially and privately in over 60 countries. He's held 17 world speed records for flight. He's the senior vice commander of the China One Post. He's also a 24-year member of the Special Ops Association, with many, many years overseas working for the Central Intelligence Agency as a pilot. Today's lecture is called The Living Moon, How and Where the Cover-Up Started in 1870. As an amendment to his introduction, I would just like to say that this gentleman has really sacrificed a lot. His career was severely affected by his speaking publicly on the subject matter. His integrity is unquestionable. His accuracy is really quite unique in this field. I know because I double-checked on a couple of things that John has said, as we all do. But more than that, this is a gentleman that will literally give you his soul before he ever takes a dollar in profit. And that's a very rare thing in this field. Still, he hasn't got the book or the DVD, so we belong in a small select club, he and myself. This information is being put out there to help people on a journey of exploration for not only their mental exercise, but also their spiritual exercise. If you need to see any of John's most recent notes, you can find them on AboveTopSecret.com, where he has his own blog. And also downstairs, John, in his wisdom, has come up with the perfect device to make sure that you can remain independent from any kind of mind control. You will also be a welcomed guest at any Thanksgiving dinner where they forgot the tin foil. And it's quite stylish, as you can see, with a feather in the cap. And without saying anything more, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you my good friend and colleague, John Lear.
Thank you, John. I've got some good news and bad news. I'll give you the bad news first. We've been scammed again. The good news is I figured it out. For a number of years, I just looked at the moon like the rest of us, and just looked like something up there. I believed it, there's no doubt in my mind that we went there in Apollo 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, and the words of James Lovell as they went around, I think, in Apollo 8, saying it's, dead, chalky substance, no gray, no nothing. And I really believed that. And a number of years ago, a friend of mine in Chicago said, if you get a chance, come on over and I want to show you some pictures. And I went over and he had a book, a Canadian book. It was called, I think it was Pictorial History of the Moon by Charrington. And he showed me a photo from Lunar Orbiter 5, and I didn't even know the Lunar Orbiter series then. Lunar Orbiter 5, and it was 155 M. And it showed an overview from directly down on the crater Copernicus, and there was 5 huge cylindrical tanks. I mean, it was obvious. fascinating. What, you know, who put those there? I mean, there was no doubt about it. I mean, it couldn't have been, you know, something natural. It was huge, great big tanks. So then, a few weeks later, I had ordered a copy, and I remember the exact moment that I was sitting, or actually sitting up in the bed at the Hacienda Hotel, LA International, waiting for a flight. And I had another photo in this book, and this one was Lunar Orbiter 2, 162, and that was an oblique photo taken in an angle of the same crater. And I looked, and I was looking at it, and I saw vapor clouds going up in this photo, and it was just amazing. I mean, the hairs went up on the back of my neck, and it was just thrilling. I said, there's something going on up there. And I remember calling Richard Owen and talked to him about it, and he said, well, you know, draw what you see and send it to me. And I frantically drew what I saw in this photo, put the number of the photo and everything, and FedExed it for the next morning. And this is my first experience with how FedEx could, you know, track anything because it didn't get there the next morning. And when I called, I said, what happened? They said, you know, it missed the sort. The sort is when the airplanes all come into like Memphis and then they all go out. When they come in, that's called the sort, where they change all the packages. And I got it free, and it eventually got to Richard, but he didn't have much to say on it. And so over the years, I started ordering photos from NASA. And I think it was like in 1996 or 97, I ordered 5 photos, and one of them was this 62 M of the Copernicus crater, the oblique photo. And when it came in a tube as a negative. Now, I'd never heard of anybody getting negatives, and this was a 16 by 20 negative. It's huge, like that. I thought I was going to get a print that I could look at, you know. So in those days, of course, technology wasn't advanced. Nobody had any way to enlarge a negative or print a negative like that. I did get a contact print, but of course that gives you a negative that you can't tell too much. And so it was like maybe 4 or 5 years until the technology got to where I could take this negative down and get it printed. And when I did, it was just amazing what I saw. There was stuff all over the place. So I took it over to Bob Lazar's house, and he made 4 scans of it, called them Copernicus 1, 2, 3, and 4, and put them on the computer. And one of the scans shows, and I'll show you in a minute here, a little building up there. And I remember first talking about this stuff on the moon with Bob Lazar, and I went to leave his house one day, and you know, I was trying to convince him the stuff up there, and as I got to the door, he said, you know, John, if any of the stuff is true, I'm going to have to kill myself. So I took I had the foresight to get him to put that on paper and sign it. I don't have a copy here, but I do have a copy that I posted on Top Secret. And 2 years later, when we got these scans in, it shows a building on Copernicus. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Even Bob Lazar had to say, yeah, that's a building. And so as I'm about to walk out, and this 2 years later, I said, Bob, you know, I know you're going to honor your promise, and you did promise to kill yourself. And he said, well, is there any way I can get out of it? And I said, well, I'll tell you what, if you'll sign this little paper, and it says, I, Bob Lazar, in return for not having to kill myself, do admit that there is a building on the moon. Signed Bob Lazar, and I put the date. So anyway, those photos sat around until I think a year and a half or a year ago, and I was working, posting on Above Top Secret, and I thought, you know, I'd like to put those on those and see what the guys have to say, because Above Top Secret, they talk about everything, and there's some really sharp guys on there. And we put those 4 photos on there, and we put them in high res so they could see all the stuff that I saw. And put them on there, and people just finally, after about, the first week, everybody said, no, I think you're seeing things, John. Then one by one, the guys started to see, hey, no, wait a minute, I see something. Then somebody else said, no, I see something, and then we saw all kinds of stuff. So that led to me getting some photos of the moon from a guy we knew in England, because there's only about 6 or 7 photos that NASA has ever released, or prior to that time, of the moon. I mean, they just weren't there. There's some observatory photos, like 4 or 5 of them of a full moon. I think 3 of them of a full moon, and then in various stages. But there wasn't a real clear picture of the moon. And so we got Mike over in England to take some picture, and he took some real high-res pictures of the moon. And he took 192 frames of the moon and then put them all together seamlessly and put them together. And when we got it, we couldn't believe what we're seeing. If you look at the moon, let's see, this thing goes forward. That little dot right there is one of the brightest objects on the moon. And NASA's never said that much about it. It's a crater called Aristarchus, and any photo I've ever seen, starting back to Lick Observatory photos back to 1938, that photo is always just white, pure white. It's like somebody just took a pen and a whiteout pen and made it pure white. And whenever you ask anybody a question about it, they say, yeah, I don't know what it is. It looks like white. That's what it is. And if you can't see it, well, let me see. That is the hexagonal shape fusion reactor, on the moon. That's Aristarchus right there. That's enlarged. You can see the arches. And right there, arches. And I'm going to show you another picture of the different flows. Down here, there's a road. Right here, there's an entrance. Here, the road goes inside the thing here. There's some tunnels here, and I'll show you. But anyway, we saw this reactor. I mean, that's all it could be. When you see the blue spot, that's where radiation contacts with air molecules and turns blue, just like it does here on Earth in the air or in the water. So we saw this and another of other pictures, and then I decided to take a look at the far side. I said, if there's this stuff on the front side, what must be on the back side? So I remember it was last December 4th. I had for some reason, about 10 years ago, I went up to Portland, where my daughter lived, and there was a big bookstore there. I forget the name of it. And I bought all the NASA books, and they were all like pre-1970. The importance of pre-1970 is before 1970, they weren't too particular about how they airbrushed stuff out. After 1970, they did a terrific job because they realized, that they had to get this covered up. But the pre-1970 stuff, and it's still available, has the poor airbrush job, and I'll show you what they did and how it works. So I took this book and I thumbed through it, and I saw a picture of Lomonosov crater, and it just looked weird. I'll show it to you in a minute. It had some what NASA calls ejecta, white ejecta. White ejecta is NASA's name for whiteout. That's what they put on there. They call it white ejecta, but it's just whiteout. And they use it to cover up cities and the buildings and stuff like that. I'll show you how it works here. And I enlarged it, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I mean, I'll show you the pictures in a minute. There was obviously a space terminal. There was obviously a city square with roads and buildings. And so then we started getting all these pictures, and I had a friend, a guy on Above Top Secret named Zorgon. Turns out to be Ron Schmidt, who's my associate now, research associate. And he started looking at this stuff and delving into it and finding more and more. So this one picture is Apollo 8, and it was taken by the Apollo 8 crew. And right here is the crater Humboldt. We are over the Terminator. This picture was actually taken when the Terminator, that's the separation between light and dark on the moon. This is the side that we can see, and it just happened this was a full moon. This is the crater Humboldt, and this is the side we can see. Now look up here. See that? See that bright spot? You see those things coming down there? Let me see if I got it. There. Now, that is not a crater. Those are lights. Those are whatever they are, stand-up walls or stuff. Those are all kinds of little things that they got around there. I don't know whether they're roads or what. If on the CD that we got downstairs called The Living Moon, it's got 650 megabytes of photos. And this photo is on there. You can enlarge it. You can say there's all kinds of little lights and everything. This is obviously a city, and it's in Batavia Speed. This is the crater Endymion. If you're looking at the moon, the full moon, it's up at about the 1 o'clock position, almost on the edge. This is a photo that was taken by Lick Observatory, and it's about the clearest photo that you can get released by the government. You can see the crater floor there, and you can see on each side some kind of stuff sticking up there. This is the exact same crater taken by Mike in England. Now remember, NASA and the Lick Observatory are using a 36-inch telescope. Mike has only got a 10-inch telescope. So look at the clarity here of the Endymion crater here. You can see here those antennas. There's a huge, big antenna there and a parabolic spherical antenna over there. That's Endymion. This is an oblique photo of Copernicus. This is the one that we've got so much information on. These are enlargements of the mining operation. You can see it's all terraced there. Right here you see the vapor going up there, vapor going up there. Up here, and it'll be easier when you get if you get the tape. You can see the building up here, and I've got an enlargement up here. Over here is a crane, and when Ron Schmidt, whose avatar is Zorgon, started looking at these, what we were looking at is we had two photos, this one and the one directly overhead, and even though they were taken 18 months apart, what we were trying to find was the smoking gun. One thing that was in here that we could see in there, and we found it, and it's this crane right here. The reason I have trouble with this red dot is I'm red-green colorblind, so I have to shine it on something to show it. Right there is a crane, and I'm going to show it to you in another photo here. Okay, now this is the building, and this is a close-up. I'm going to show you this is the 3 floors right here, and this is the what I call ramp. Now I call this facetiously a parking garage. But it is definitely a 3-story building. Somebody built it, put it on the moon. That's a colorized version of it. This, I'll show you what this is. This is a long ramp. And you can see right here the beautiful arches right there. And the arches go in like that. Let's see if I got a colorized version of it. Here's a colorized version. You can see the arches down there. I wish I could see where I could find that dot. Here is a bucket wheel excavator. And it's really interesting because I looked at this thing for years. And I was trying to make it out as a tank. And the vapor was flowing out. But it's not. That is a bucket wheel excavator. And that's dust coming out of the dirt, coming out of the top of the excavator and flowing down the hillside. That's an enlargement, and you can see some of the buckets right there. Okay, now these are the two vapors, indication of vapors there that are going up. And of course, if the moon is a vacuum, you can't have vapor. So this is one of the evidence that there is certainly an atmosphere on the moon. This is a photo that Ron put together to show you all the stuffs in that one photo. This is the crane right there, and this is it colorized right there. This is the left portion of the crater Copernicus. And this thing right here is the bucket wheel excavator. And here's what's really interesting. This is what we call the keep. It's a road. It goes all the way from here, all the way up there, and there's all kinds of things on that road. There's buildings. I'll show you a bucket wheel excavator. There's cranes. There's all kinds of stuff up there. And up here, there's all kinds of stuff up there. Here we have smoke. There's a building. There's a graded road bed. Here's all kinds of stuff. All this is on the thing. And this is the wheel, which is this, bucket wheel excavator up there. It's huge. Now, as we're putting this up there, sometimes we get a little feedback from NASA and through guys that post on the web. And one of them said, yeah, NASA had found a lot of that ancient stuff, it's been there for, millions of years. And I said, well, if that's the case, then you better tell them that it's still running and they need to turn it on. I need to go back here. This is what we call a dump, because there's just all kinds of stuff in there. It looks like parts of spaceships and buildings and all kinds of junk there. I'm sorry, can you guys see what I'm looking at here? I can't do it on both sides the way they got it set up here. There's more of the dump. You can see something there, the pose here. This is the Marius crater. By the way, this is Kepler. Now, see all that stuff here? All that's construction. This is a mining camp. You can see all the dust and the stuff coming down there. And this is a bunch of buildings right there. I'll see if we can enlarge it for you. And this white slab is part of a cover-up. I don't know what's there, but they obviously painted that part in. Now, you can see there, that's the little city, that's the slab. This is the mining operation. You can see the road, you can see dust coming down, all that. this construction over here. Now, this is from Lunar Orbiter, and I forget what the number is. Several years later, the NASA Apollo 15 took a picture to get a clearer picture of all this. That's the clearer picture. Naturally, everything's gone. No mining camp, no city, no part here, no part there. We just take it back just to remind you. That was taken by Lunar Orbiter. That was taken by Apollo 15. Now, do you see any enterprise work there? Kepler. It's Kepler. Here is a beautiful... Oh, wait a minute. Can't see something. I was going to show you something really neat on the moon, but it appears that NASA has airbrushed it anyway. Now here, this next one is really... Oh, no. I was going to show you something really fantastic. Damn. Here's we're back to the Aristarchus. And this is NASA's picture of Aristarchus. Now look at the difference. Now I put them so that they're facing the same, from the same general direction. This is the fusion reactor, but you look at NASA's crater and it looks somewhat different. Okay, now I took the time, sit in the dark and look at these photos, and if you get the CD you can look yourself, but this is what I see. In the back there's definitely curved structures. I don't know where people live or what it is. This is a hexagonal shaped dome, there's no question about that. You can see the containment of the radiation. I mean, it's obviously a circle of some kind that's containing it. This is a flow out of some kind. You can see this obvious rectangular opening down here. You can see an obvious road that goes like there. There's obviously 3 tunnel openings right there. You can see arches right there. I wonder if there's anybody on the moon. Do you think this is formed naturally? You can see containments, like a containment pool. But anyway, really interesting things. And the way I do is, at night, you know, turn off all the lights and get the computer and my eyes adjust, and then turn it on and then look at it. It takes a while. It's not something that you can switch from looking at the King and Queens or something like that and then turn this on and look at it. You have to get your eyes adjusted for a little while. Okay, now you're saying now, okay, all that stuff is on the moon. You know, I thought there was 1/6 gravity, and I thought there was no atmosphere, and you know, how could anybody live up there if there's no atmosphere? Well, I'd like to straighten out the gravity situation first. The gravity on the moon is about 64% that of Earth. All that stuff you saw on Apollo 11 and all of that film was all faked. And that's why the people who don't believe we went there say, oh, that's fake. Yeah, that was faked. But it was faked for a reason. We did go there, but it's what we found out there that we're keeping a secret. And the main things we found is that the gravity is 64%, that there is an atmosphere, the sky is not black, the sky is yellow, and there's people that live there. So one of the things we got to start with is, well, how do we know that the gravity is 64%? And mainstream science will say, well, because we know Newton's universal law of gravitation, that the moon has a density of 3.3 grams per centimeter squared, and we know that the Earth has 5.5 grams per centimeter. It's all BS. I mean, they don't know what the density of the moon is any more than they know what the density of the Earth is. They had to hypothesize that the Earth has an iron core just to make that stuff come out. You know, it doesn't. The only way you can really do it is to use the bully Newton inverse square law, which states that any physical quantity or strength is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Specifically, the gravitational attraction between two massive objects, in addition to being directly proportional to the product of their masses, is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between. What that means is, we don't need to know what the density of the moon and the Earth is to find out the neutral point. All we need to know is the size and where the neutral point is. So the neutral point by NASA has been given us for years at 24,000 miles, because using the inverse square law, that works out to be 1/6 gravity. But what we have here is we know the distance, we know the size of the Earth and the size of the moon. We don't have to know the density, and we know the neutral point. How do we know the neutral point? There's many ways we know the neutral point, but the main one is Werner von Braun told us in 1972 that it was 43,495 miles. So we know the neutral point, and all we have to do is, therefore we can state the following from the parameters: the radius of the moon, the radius of the Earth, the distance from the Earth's center to the neutral point, the distance from the moon's contact to the neutral point, and we just run that out. I mean, I failed math, but even I can figure that out. It didn't take too long. I had to have a big computer. And you come down here to the bottom where the moon's gravity is 64%. Why that's important is it means if it's 64%, then it can hold an atmosphere. If it holds an atmosphere, then people live there. This is a picture that shows the moon, taken by Lick Observatory in 1947. And get that little red dot up there so that I can see it. See that up there? That's a huge explosion. That's Endymion, that little crater right there. That there is a huge explosion. Let's see if I have it enlarged up here, right here. See that? That's a plume that the explosion has exploded, and that plume of dirt and dust has drifted about 25 miles to the northwest and is starting to rise. And you can see it's rising, and when it hits the top of the atmosphere, it spreads out like that. Now that can't happen in a vacuum. There has to be an atmosphere for that to occur in. Here it is here. You can see the plume drifting. That's about 25 miles and then heading up into the atmosphere. Because it does, you can't have a plume. He's asking why you do. 2 minutes? Holy smokes! We're going to have to continue this, but he's asking about why the plume, dust and plume won't hold together in a vacuum. It has to have an atmosphere to hold it together. So anyway, I wanted to show you quick, and we'll end it up here. This is King's Crater on the back side of the moon. See all that stuff there? That's all the, I don't know how we got that far. I lost it. I must have clicked it. Oh, here we are. Oh, I see what's happening. I'm hitting the wrong buttons. That's King's Crater. That's the vegetation there. This is the backside of the moon. This was taken by Russia. Let me show you a quick couple of things here. This is, there's some fantastic things in this picture. There's a huge mushroom. Oh, here it is, right here. Just stands up. It's perfect. This thing down here, that's a 40-mile building. We're going to have to hustle right along here. That's it right there. See that building right there? That is 40 miles wide, and those are 3 huge cylinders that stick up, and that's a great big arch. That's it enlarged. This is Daedalus. That's a building right there. Anyway, we'll go into the rest of this. That's a huge arch on the moon right there. Beautiful construction. This is the thing that, how we got that? It's been great talking to you. I'll finish when we start again.
Well, don't forget, we'll have Mr. Lear in our workshop. It'll be next door in about 15 minutes, so he can continue with all the information that he wants to share. And the title of his workshop will be More Continuation, U.S. Mining Operations on the Moon, 1960 to 2007, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much. I've been calling everyone doctor. Thank you. Mr. Lear. And I know why I'm calling everyone doctor. There's doctor this, doctor that, and so